You know that feeling when you're dealing with a system, any system, and you just think, ugh, there has to be a better way? Well, that exact frustration became the launchpad for an organization called SNS Institutions to build a truly unique blueprint for innovation. So let's dive into how they managed to systematically replace confusion with creativity.
So, where did this all begin? It all started with a simple, fundamental problem looking at complex systems that just didn't feel intuitive. And for SNS, this wasn't just some minor annoyance, it was a serious call to action. They saw this huge gap between how things were and how they knew things should be.
And this led them to ask a really powerful question. Now, for the team at SNS, this wasn't just a passing thought you forget about a minute later. Nope. This became their catalyst. It sparked a mission to fundamentally reinvent their entire approach, starting right at the foundation of how they educate and build for the future.
Okay, so that frustration kicked off a search for a better way, a more logical and, well, a more human-focused approach to tackling their toughest problems. It became pretty clear pretty fast that they needed a whole new way of thinking. And that search didn't just lead them anywhere, it led them straight to the absolute pioneers of innovation. We're talking Stanford's D School and the legendary design firm IDEO. And what they found there wasn't just an answer, they found a whole new framework for solving problems. The big answer they found was design thinking. Now, I know what you're thinking. Another corporate buzzword, right? But for them, this was different. This was the real deal. It was the missing piece of the puzzle. It gave them a repeatable, human-focused process for cracking really tough nuts. Basically, it was a way to systematically build the common sense they felt was missing right from the very start. But here's the thing. A framework is just a blueprint, right? It's an idea on paper. To actually bring it to life, SNS knew they had to build an entire culture around it, a whole ecosystem designed not just to use this new way of thinking, but to make sure it could actually grow and thrive for the long haul. The bedrock of this new culture was something they called the 3 Ps. First up, you've got purpose, making sure there's a crystal clear why behind every single action. That purpose is then carried out through a consistent process. For them, that's their design thinking framework. And of course, none of it works without the right people, the empowered individuals who are the heartbeat that makes it all real. So, what do they even mean by the right people? Well, they defined it with 3 core competencies. It starts with attitude. You can think of this as the heart, which is all about curiosity and responsibility. Then you add skills, that's the head, like logic, creativity, and business insight. And finally, you need deep, specialized knowledge, the hands. And here's their key insight. Real innovation only happens at the intersection of all 3, when the heart, head, and hands are all working together. Okay, so with that strong cultural foundation set, they needed to give it some structure, put some bones on it. They did this by building their entire system on 5 key pillars of innovation. And what's really cool is how these 5 pillars form a complete circle of growth. It's a logical progression. It starts inward with hands-on learning and creativity that naturally builds into personal career development. From there, it expands outward, connecting students to the community through social responsibility and to the actual market through industry partnerships. Each step just logically builds on the last. And when they say learning, they are not talking about just memorizing stuff from a textbook. This is intensely practical. It's about mastering the exact tools and getting the certifications that industries are demanding right now. Things like AWS, Databricks, and Autodesk. The whole goal is to make sure every single skill is valuable and ready for the real world from day one. So how do you manage this whole system? Well, they rely on proven management tools. They use OKRs, or objectives and key results, to set those really ambitious long-term goals. And then they use specific, measurable, SMART goals to track all the little milestones along the way. It's a perfect dual system for thinking big while still managing all the details. So they've got this incredible human-centered system just humming along. And then they ask that question, okay, what's next? How do we make this even better? The answer was to pour some serious jet fuel on the fire. And that jet fuel was artificial intelligence, not as a replacement, but as an accelerator, a tool to supercharge every single part of the process they'd already built. So what does supercharging with AI actually look like in practice? Well, this is where it gets really cool. Get this. Instead of generic study materials, the AI designs totally personalized learning paths.
And instead of just theoretical problems, it pulls real-world challenges from top-tier startup incubators like Y Combinator, giving students a direct shot at solving cutting-edge issues. It's truly innovation accelerated by intelligence. All right, so you've got the culture, you've got the structure, and now you've got cutting-edge AI working through it all. All this incredible effort, all of these pieces are building towards one single, incredibly ambitious goal. See, their ultimate vision is so much bigger than just teaching skills. The real goal is to install design thinking as the core operating system for how their people see the world. It's about creating an entrepreneurial spirit that views every single challenge not as a roadblock, but as a genuine opportunity. And that vision has a number attached to it, a big one. The mission? To launch 1,000 new AI-powered startups in just 10 years. Let that sink in. This isn't just an education program anymore. It's an engine for creating new companies. And this is the complete transformation. The journey started with that feeling of frustration and a real lack of process. It ended with a purpose-driven system amplified by a growth mindset and AI. They didn't just improve their old model, they built an entirely new one designed from the ground up for excellence. When you look at it, the SNS story is a powerful blueprint. It shows what can happen when you decide to systematically replace frustration with a solid framework and then supercharge it with the right tech. So it leaves us with a really big question to think about. What audacious goal out there in your world is just one good system away from becoming a reality?